rivers. Areas used mainly for agriculture and which give a reasonable yield. Is below sea level, and during the rainy season, the canal system cannot handle.
Okay, Rakesh sir,
it is audible now.
Okay.
Okay, great. അതൊന്ന് ചെക്ക് ചെയ്യാനായിരുന്നു. പിന്നെ അംബാസിഡർ ഇപ്പോൾ വിളിച്ചിരുന്നു, അപ്പൊ പറഞ്ഞു അതായത് ഇത് സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ ആയി കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ അദ്ദേഹത്തിനെ ഒന്ന് അറിയിക്കാൻ പറഞ്ഞു. അപ്പൊ അദ്ദേഹം ഓൺലൈൻ വരാന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു.
Okay, Jochan sir.
അപ്പൊ 12 മണിക്ക് തന്നെ സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യാം അല്ലേ?
Here the time is 3:30.
Now it is 3:20.
സോറി, അതായത് 10 മിനിറ്റിൽ സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യാം അല്ലേ?
Okay.
Indulal sir. 10 മിനിറ്റ് തുടങ്ങിയാൽ പോരെ? 3:30 സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്താൽ പോരെ?
3:30 സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്താൽ.
അംബാസിഡർ വന്നിട്ട് വെൽക്കം തുടങ്ങിയാൽ മതിയല്ലോ അല്ലേ? അംബാസിഡർ ഓൺലൈനിലായതിനു ശേഷം. Rakesh sir, we'll start the program exactly at 3:30. Okay. Could you hear me? Hello?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Okay,
okay.
correct.
Exact at 3 is fine. At 3:30 is fine, and I'll immediately let you know once the ambassador.
നമസ്കാരം. എല്ലാവർക്കും കേൾക്കാമോ? ഡോക്ടർ ജോച്ചൻ ജോസഫ്,
കേൾക്കാമോ? വീഡിയോ കാണാമോ?
Yes, yes.
നമസ്കാരം, Dr. Jochan Joseph. Would you like to begin?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Shall we start?
Yes, please.
Good afternoon, His Excellency Mr. Venu Rajamony, Mr. Rakesh and dear participants. I'm Dr. Jochan Joseph, Principal, St.Aloysius College, Edathua. The Internal Quality Assurance Cell of St.Aloysius College, Edathua and the Aloysius Studies Center on Kuttanadu organizing an international webinar. First, I thank God the Almighty for materializing this international webinar. I congratulate the IQAC coordinator, Dr. Jubin Anthony, and the NAC coordinator, Dr.Indulal and Father Rajamony P. Isaac for the efforts they have taken for materializing this webinar on below sea level farming and integrated water resource management. What Kuttanadu can learn from the death. Today we have got an exceptional opportunity to hear from two eminent speakers. His Excellency Mr. Venu Rajamony, Indian Ambassador to the Netherlands, and Mr. Rakesh N.M., architect based in Rotterdam, Netherlands. Before going into details, let me bring few instructions. Please mute the mic as the background noise may disturb the seminar. I'll say it in Malayalam also. Ellavudeയും mic mute ചെയ്യണം. Background noise avoid ചെയ്യാനായിട്ടാണ്. 2. A Google form will be posted in chat box in both Google Meet platform and YouTube towards the end of the session. Please fill the form. Attendance certificate will be mailed to your mail ID. Google Meet platform യൂട്യൂബിലും chat boxിലുള്ള Google form നിങ്ങൾ ഫില്ലപ്പ് ചെയ്ത് തന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നിങ്ങളുടെ അറ്റൻഡൻസ് സർട്ടിഫിക്കറ്റ് നിങ്ങളുടെ ഇമെയിൽ ഐഡിയിലേക്ക് അയച്ചു തരുന്നതായിരിക്കും. Third one, there will be an opportunity to interact with our eminent speakers. To better manage time, I kindly request you to post your questions in chat box. We will direct the questions to our respected speakers. നമുക്ക് നമ്മളുടെ എമിനന്റ് സ്പീക്കേഴ്സുമായിട്ട് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഇന്ററാക്ട് ചെയ്യാനുള്ള അവസരം ഉണ്ടായിരിക്കും. സമയം ലാഭിക്കുവാനായിട്ട് ചാറ്റ് ബോക്സിൽ നിങ്ങളുടെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ഇടുകയാണെങ്കിൽ ഞങ്ങളത് സ്പീക്കേഴ്സിനെ കൈമാറുന്നതായിരിക്കും. Now I am here to brief you all about St.Aloysius College and introduce our eminent guest. St.Aloysius College, Edathua is founded in 1965 and managed by St. George Foreign Church, Edathua, which is situated in Kuttanadu Taluk in the Lake District of Alappuzha. This is the one and only one college in Kuttanadu, and the college has now become a well-established NAC re-accredited A-grade college, comprising of 9 undergraduate and 5 postgraduate and 2 PhD programs. The college is affiliated to Mahatma Gandhi University, Kottayam. Being a college in agriculture area of Alappuzha district, it caters its service to the farming and related agriculture labor community of the region. The total student strength is around 1100. Let me introduce our chief guest, His Excellency Mr. Venu Rajamony, sir. His Excellency's tenure of nearly 3 years has seen a vibrancy in India-Netherlands relations like never before, with the exchange of several high-level visits between the two countries, including the first visit to India by King and Queen in October 2019. Dutch Prime Minister also visits India in 2018. Prime Minister Narendra Modi visit to Netherlands in 2017. Visit by Indian Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar to the Netherlands, and visit to the Netherlands by Chief Ministers of Himachal Pradesh, Kerala and West Bengal. Ambassador Rajamony has authored much acclaimed books, India and Netherlands, Past, Present and Future in September 2019. What we can learn from the Dutch? Rebuilding Kerala post 2018 floods in January 2019. The book on India and Netherlands was released by the King of the Netherlands with the participation of the Queen of the Netherlands, Minister of Education and Culture, and many other dignitaries. He has also, to his credit, an acclaimed monograph titled India-China-US Triangle, a soft balance of power in the making, and a coffee table book titled India and the UAE, in celebration of a legendary friendship. Born on November 12th, 1960, he holds degree in law from Mahatma Gandhi University, Kerala, a master's in international studies from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, and a certificate in Chinese language from University of Hong Kong. Mr. Venu Rajamony sir joined the Indian Foreign Service in 1986 and has served in Indian mission in Hong Kong, Beijing, Geneva, and Washington, D.C., as well as the Ministry of External Affairs in New Delhi. He was the Asia Foundation Fellow at the Center of Strategic and International Studies in Washington, D.C. between 2001 and 2002. Consul General of India in Dubai from 2007 to 2010, and Joint Secretary and Head of Multilateral Institutions, Divisions of Department of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance, Government of India from 2010 to 2012. He served as the Press Secretary to the President of India, Pranab Kumar Mukherjee, for 5 years from August 2012 to May 2017. Venu Rajamony sir began his career as a journalist in Kochi with the English daily Indian Express, where he worked from 1983 to 86. His Excellency Venu Rajamony sir is married to Dr. Saroj Thapa, an educationalist, and has 2 sons. Now let me introduce the man behind the conduct of this seminar from the other end. It is none other than Mr. Rakesh. Rakesh Nadvatmana, born in Kerala, was educated as an architect and urban designer at the Technical University of Delft, the Netherlands. His master's thesis in Delft explored new approaches in the design and planning of the urbanized delta landscapes of Netherlands. He was awarded at the Science of Future Cities competition conducted by the government of Singapore in 2015 for his proposal on water management in the city of Singapore. He is the co-author of the book, What We Can Learn from the Dutch, Rebuilding Kerala Post 2018 Floods, January 2019. He currently lives in Rotterdam and works on large-scale urban and landscape projects in Europe. With great respect and I'm happy to welcome His Excellency Mr. Venu Rajamony and Mr. Rakesh to this international webinar. We have a mixed audience of academicians and non-academicians, including NGO representatives from inside and outside Kerala and farmers. I heartily welcome all dear participants to the webinar. Now it is the time for starting our lecture. Over to invited speakers. First, His Excellency Mr. Venu Rajamony sir will give the lecture.
Thank you, Dr. Jochan Joseph.
Thank you, sir.
സുഹൃത്തുക്കളെ, സ്നേഹിതരെ, വളരെയധികം സന്തോഷമുണ്ട് ഈ വെബിനാറിൽ പങ്കെടുക്കുവാനായി. എനിക്ക് ആദ്യമായി ഡോക്ടർ ജോച്ചൻ ജോസഫിന്റെ ക്ഷണക്കത്ത് ലഭിച്ചപ്പോൾ അത് തികച്ചും അപ്രതീക്ഷിതമായിരുന്നു. കൊച്ചു കേരളത്തിലെ കുട്ടനാട് പ്രദേശത്തിലെ സെന്റ് അലോഷ്യസ് കോളേജ് ഇത്ര അന്താരാഷ്ട്ര തലത്തിൽ ചിന്തിക്കുന്നു എന്ന ഒരു വസ്തുത എന്നെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളം, അതുപോലെ തന്നെ രാകേഷിനെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളം വളരെയധികം സന്തോഷം ഉളവാക്കിയ ഒരു വസ്തുതയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ തുടക്കത്തിൽ ഞാൻ ഡോക്ടർ ജോച്ചൻ ജോസഫിനെയും ഡോക്ടർ ജുബിൻ ആന്റണിയെയും സെന്റ് അലൂഷ്യസ് കോളേജിനെയും ഞങ്ങളുടെ അഭിനന്ദനങ്ങൾ അറിയിക്കാൻ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുകയാണ്. ഇതൊരു തുടക്കം മാത്രമായിരിക്കണം. വീണ്ടും വീണ്ടും ഇതുപോലെ തന്നെ അന്താരാഷ്ട്ര തലത്തിൽ ചിന്തിക്കുകയും കുട്ടനാടിന് റെലവെന്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള സബ്ജക്ട്സിൽ ഒരുപാട് ചർച്ചകൾ ഈ ആധുനിക ടെക്നോളജിക്കൽ മാധ്യമങ്ങൾ ഉപയോഗിച്ച് സംഘടിപ്പിക്കണം എന്ന് ഞാൻ അഭ്യർത്ഥിക്കാൻ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുകയാണ്. ഈ പരിപാടിയിൽ 169ഓളം ആൾക്കാർ പങ്കെടുക്കുന്നു എന്നാണ് ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ കമ്പ്യൂട്ടറിൽ നിന്ന് കാണുന്നത്. ഇതും വളരെയധികം സന്തോഷമുള്ളാക്കുന്ന ഒരു കാര്യമാണ്. നമുക്ക് ഇന്ന് കേരളം സ്കൂളുകളിലെല്ലാം ഓൺലൈൻ വിദ്യാഭ്യാസം തുടങ്ങിയിരിക്കുന്നു. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ഒരു പോപ്പുലർ ലെവലിൽ എല്ലാവർക്കും ഇന്ന് അവൈലബിൾ ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഈ ഗൂഗിൾ മീറ്റ് പോലുള്ള അല്ലെങ്കിൽ കമ്പ്യൂട്ടറും ഇന്റർനെറ്റും ഉപയോഗിച്ചുള്ള എല്ലാ മാധ്യമങ്ങളും ഉപയോഗിച്ച് നമുക്ക് പരമാവധി അറിവും വിവരങ്ങളും പ്രതിഭകളെയും എല്ലാം കേരളത്തിന്റെ ഓരോ ദിക്കിലും കൊണ്ടെത്തിക്കുവാൻ സാധിക്കണം. അതിൽ കുട്ടനാട് അതിൻ്റെതായ പ്രത്യേകതകൾ ഉള്ളത് കാരണം വളരെയധികം പ്രാധാന്യം അർഹിക്കുന്നു. ഒന്നുകൂടി ഞാൻ സെന്റ് അലോഷ്യസ് കോളേജിനെയും അതിന്റെ എല്ലാ ഭാരവാഹികളെയും എൻ്റെ ഹൃദയം നിറഞ്ഞ അഭിനന്ദനങ്ങൾ അറിയിക്കാൻ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുകയാണ്. ഈ സെമിനാറിന്റെ വിഷയം ഞാനും രാകേഷും എഴുതിയ പുസ്തകത്തിനോട് ഒരുപാട് സാമ്യങ്ങൾ ഉള്ളൊരു വിഷയമാണ്. അതുകൊണ്ടുകൂടിയാണ് ഞങ്ങൾ വളരെ സന്തോഷത്തോടു കൂടി ഇതിൽ പങ്കെടുക്കുന്നത്. ഡോക്ടർ ജോച്ചൻ ജോസഫ് ഇപ്പോൾ പറഞ്ഞതുപോലെ ആ പുസ്തകത്തിന്റെ ടൈറ്റിൽ വാട്ട് വി ക്യാൻ ലേൺ ഫ്രം ദ ഡച്ച് റീബിൽഡിംഗ് കേരള പോസ്റ്റ് ഫ്ലഡ്സ് 2018 എന്നാണ് പേര്. അതിന്റെ ഒരു മലയാളം പതിപ്പ് പ്രളയം, പ്രതിരോധം, പുനർനിർമ്മാണം, പഠിക്കാം ഡച്ച് പാഠങ്ങൾ എന്ന പേരിൽ ഓൾറെഡി ഇറങ്ങിക്കഴിഞ്ഞു. അത് ഇന്ന് മാതൃഭൂമി ബുക്സിന്റെ ഷോപ്സുകൾ, കടകളിൽ കേരളത്തിൽ ലഭിക്കുന്നതാണ്. ഓൺലൈനായിട്ടും അത് അവൈലബിൾ ആണ്. നിങ്ങളോട് ഓരോരുത്തരോടും ആ പുസ്തകം കൂടി മേടിച്ച് അത് വായിക്കാനും അതിൽ നിങ്ങളുടെ അതിനെക്കുറിച്ചുള്ള അഭിപ്രായങ്ങളും നിങ്ങളുടെ ഒരു ഫീഡ്ബാക്കും ഞങ്ങളെ അറിയിക്കുവാനും കൂടി ഞാൻ അഭ്യർത്ഥിക്കാൻ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുകയാണ്. എന്നെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളം ഇന്ത്യയുടെ നെതർലൻഡ്സിലെ അംബാസിഡർ എന്ന നിലയ്ക്ക് നിരന്തരം പ്രയത്നങ്ങൾ നെതർലൻഡ്സിൽ നിന്നും ഇന്ത്യക്ക് എന്തെല്ലാം പഠിക്കുവാൻ സാധിക്കും, ഇന്ത്യക്ക് എങ്ങനെ നെതർലൻഡ്സിന് സംഭാവന നൽകുവാൻ സാധിക്കും എന്നീ രണ്ട് വിഷയങ്ങളെ കുറിച്ചാണ് ഞാൻ ഏറ്റവും കൂടുതൽ ശ്രദ്ധ ചെലുത്തിയിട്ടുള്ളത്. അതിൽ മലയാളി എന്ന നിലയ്ക്ക് കേരളത്തിനോട് പ്രത്യേകം താല്പര്യമുണ്ട്. അതുകൊണ്ട് കേരളത്തിന് എന്ത് പഠിക്കാൻ സാധിക്കും എന്നതിനെ കുറിച്ചും ഞാൻ ഒരുപാട് ചിന്തിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. മാത്രമല്ല വളരെയധികം സന്തോഷം ഉണ്ടായ ഒരു കാര്യം, ഡച്ച് രാജാവിനെയും രാജ്ഞിയെയും ആദ്യമായി കേരളത്തിൽ കൊണ്ടുവരാൻ സാധിച്ചു എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. കഴിഞ്ഞ വർഷം ഒക്ടോബറിൽ അവർ കേരളത്തിൽ വന്നു എന്ന് മാത്രമല്ല, അവർ കുട്ടനാടും സന്ദർശിച്ചു. കുട്ടനാടിലെ കായലുകളിലൂടെ അവരൊരു യാത്ര നടത്തി. ആ യാത്ര ഒരു വിനോദയാത്ര മാത്രമല്ലായിരുന്നു. ആ യാത്രയുടെ സമയത്തിൽ കുട്ടനാടിന്റെ പ്രത്യേകത എന്താണ്, ഈ ഫ്ലഡ്സ് ഉണ്ടാവുമ്പോൾ, പ്രളയം ഉണ്ടാവുമ്പോൾ കുട്ടനാട് അതിനെ എന്തെല്ലാം വെല്ലുവിളികളെ നേരിടുന്നു, എന്തെല്ലാം ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടുകൾ നേരിടുന്നു, അതിനെ ഓവർകം ചെയ്യുവാനായി എന്തൊക്കെ നടപടികൾ കേരള സർക്കാരും മറ്റ് അധികൃതരും എടുക്കുന്നു. അതുപോലെ അവര് കുട്ടനാട്ടിലെ ഒരു കൃഷിപ്പാടം സന്ദർശിക്കുകയും അവിടുത്തെ ഡിസ്ട്രിക്ട് കളക്ടറിൽ നിന്നും എങ്ങനെയാണ് കുട്ടനാടിൽ സമുദ്രനിരപ്പിന് താഴെ നെൽകൃഷി നടത്തുന്നത് എന്നും അവർ മനസ്സിലാക്കുവാൻ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുകയുണ്ടായി. ഈ പല യാത്രകളിലൂടെയും പല ഇന്ററാക്ഷൻസിലൂടെയും കേരളവും നെതർലൻഡ്സും തമ്മിൽ ഈ പ്രളയത്തിന്റെ രംഗത്ത് ഒരു സഹകരണം നടത്തുവാനായി ഒരു സ്ഥിരമായ ഒരു ഫൗണ്ടേഷൻ ഓൾറെഡി തയ്യാറാക്കി കഴിഞ്ഞിരിക്കുന്നു. അതിന്റെ മുകളിൽ ബിൽഡ് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ട് കൂടുതൽ സഹകരണം വരുന്ന വർഷങ്ങളിൽ നടത്തുവാൻ സാധിക്കും എന്നുള്ളതാണ് വിശ്വാസം. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ കൃഷിയുടെ രംഗത്തും നെതർലൻഡ്സുമായി കൂടുതൽ സഹകരണം ഉണ്ടാവണം എന്ന് കേരള ഗവൺമെന്റിനെ അറിയിക്കുകയും ആ ആശയം മുന്നോട്ട് കൊണ്ടുപോകാനായി കേരള ഗവൺമെന്റിനോടൊപ്പം ഞങ്ങളിപ്പോൾ പ്രവർത്തിച്ചു കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. ഈ വിഷയങ്ങളെക്കുറിച്ചെല്ലാം ഇനി തൊട്ട് ഞാൻ സംസാരിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ രാകേഷ് ഒരു പ്രസന്റേഷൻ അവതരിപ്പിക്കും. നിങ്ങൾ ആ പ്രസന്റേഷൻ കണ്ട ശേഷം നിങ്ങൾക്കുള്ള ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ പരമാവധി ഉള്ളിൽ ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് മറുപടി നൽകാൻ തരുന്ന വിധത്തിൽ മറുപടി തരാൻ ഞങ്ങൾ തയ്യാറാണ്. ഞാൻ ഒരു കാര്യം മാത്രം പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ട് അവസാനിച്ചുകൊള്ളട്ടെ. ഈ കുട്ടനാട് പ്രത്യേകിച്ചും കേരളവും നെതർലൻഡ്സിനോട് ഒരുപാട് സാമ്യതകൾ ഉള്ള ഒരു പ്രദേശമാണ്, ഒരു രാജ്യമാണ്. ഇതിൽ നമുക്ക് അന്യോന്യം പഠിക്കാനായി ഒരുപാടുണ്ട്. എങ്കിൽ ഇതുവരെ കേരളത്തിലെ ജനങ്ങൾ ഒരു വിധത്തിൽ നെതർലൻഡ്സിനെ മറന്നിരിക്കുകയായിരുന്നു, നെതർലൻഡ്സിലെ ജനങ്ങൾ കേരളത്തെ മറന്നിരിക്കുകയായിരുന്നു. ഈ രണ്ട് ജനതയ്ക്കും നൂറ്റാണ്ടുകളായുള്ള ബന്ധങ്ങളെ കുറിച്ച് ഓർമ്മിപ്പിക്കുവാൻ വേണ്ടി കൂടിയാണ് ഞാൻ ഇന്ത്യ ആൻഡ് ദ നെതർലൻഡ്സ് പാസ്റ്റ്, പ്രസന്റ് ആൻഡ് ഫ്യൂച്ചർ എന്ന പുസ്തകം രചിച്ചത്. ആ ഓർമ്മ പുതുക്കൽ ഈ രാജാവും രാജ്ഞിയും കേരളം സന്ദർശിച്ചപ്പോൾ വീണ്ടും അതിന് പുതിയൊരു ഉത്തേജനം നൽകുവാൻ സാധിച്ചു. നമ്മൾ തമ്മിലുള്ള ഈ ബന്ധങ്ങൾ, നെതർലൻഡ്സും കേരളവും തമ്മിലുള്ള ബന്ധങ്ങൾ നമുക്ക് നിലനിർത്തുവാനും വളർത്തുവാനും സാധിക്കണം. നമുക്ക് അന്യോന്യം പഠിക്കുവാൻ സാധിക്കണം, അന്യോന്യം സഹകരിക്കാൻ സാധിക്കണം. ഇതിന് ജനപങ്കാളിത്തം വളരെയധികം പ്രാധാന്യമാണ്. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ സെന്റ് അലോഷ്യസ് കോളേജ് പോലുള്ള വിദ്യാഭ്യാസ സ്ഥാപനങ്ങൾ വിദ്യാർത്ഥികളുടെ ഇടയിൽ ഈ ഒരു ലോകത്തിൽ നിന്നും നമുക്ക് പഠിക്കുവാൻ സാധിക്കണം. നമുക്ക് ചരിത്രത്തിൽ ബന്ധങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്ന രാജ്യങ്ങളുമായിട്ടുള്ള ബന്ധങ്ങൾ ഇന്നും നിലനിർത്തി പുതിയ രൂപത്തിൽ വളർത്തിയെടുക്കുവാൻ സാധിക്കണം. ഈ പഠനങ്ങളിലൂടെ നമുക്ക് നമ്മുടെ രാജ്യത്തെ, നമ്മുടെ പ്രദേശത്തെ സാഹചര്യങ്ങൾ കൂടുതൽ മെച്ചപ്പെടുത്തുവാൻ സാധിക്കണം. ജനങ്ങൾക്ക് സേവനം നൽകുന്ന വിധത്തിൽ, ജനങ്ങളുടെ വെൽഫെയർ ഉറപ്പാക്കുന്ന വിധത്തിൽ നമുക്കിത് മുന്നോട്ട് കൊണ്ടുപോകാൻ സാധിക്കണം എന്നുള്ള ആ ഒരു ചിന്ത ഇന്നത്തെ കേരളത്തിലെ ചെറുപ്പക്കാരുടെ ഇടയിൽ, ആലപ്പുഴയിലെയും കുട്ടനാട്ടിലെയും ചെറുപ്പക്കാരുടെ ഇടയിൽ സെന്റ് അലോഷ്യസ് കോളേജിലെ വിദ്യാർത്ഥികളുടെ മനസ്സിൽ സ്ഥാപിക്കുവാൻ സാധിക്കണം എന്നുകൂടി അഭ്യർത്ഥിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ ഈ ചുരുങ്ങിയ വാക്കുകൾ ഇപ്പോൾ അവസാനിപ്പിക്കുന്നു. രാകേഷിന്റെ പ്രസന്റേഷന് ശേഷം നിങ്ങളുടെ ചോദ്യോത്തരങ്ങൾക്ക് മറുപടി നൽകുവാനായി ഞാൻ ഇവിടെ ഉണ്ടാവും. നമസ്കാരം.
Thank you, sir.
ഹലോ, എല്ലാവർക്കും നമസ്കാരം. ഞാനാണ് രാകേഷ്. അപ്പോ ഞങ്ങളിത് ഇത്ര ആൾക്കാർ ഒന്നിച്ച് കൂടിയൊരു ഒക്കേഷൻ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞപ്പോൾ ഇത് എങ്ങനെ പ്രസന്റ് ചെയ്യണം എന്നുള്ളതായിരുന്നു ആദ്യത്തെ സംശയം. കാരണം ഒരുപാട് വിഷയങ്ങളുണ്ട്, പക്ഷെ നമുക്ക് സമയം വളരെ ചുരുങ്ങിയതേ ഉള്ളൂ. അപ്പൊ ഇതൊരു ലെക്ചർ എന്നുള്ള രീതിയോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു സെമിനാർ എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിൽ ഉപരി ഇവിടുത്തെ ചില എക്സാമ്പിൾസ് ഞങ്ങളൊന്ന് പ്രസന്റ് ചെയ്യും, കുറച്ച് കാര്യങ്ങളൊന്ന് കാണിച്ചു തരാം. അത് വളരെ ഷോർട്ട് ആക്കി ഒരു 10-15 മിനിറ്റ് കൊണ്ട് അത് ചെയ്തു തീർക്കാനാണ് ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നത്. അത് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ബാക്കിയുള്ള സമയം ഇത്ര ആൾക്കാരും കൂടി ഉള്ള സ്ഥിതിക്ക് ഒരു ഇന്ററാക്ഷൻ സ്പേസ് ഒരുക്കാനാണ് ആക്ച്വലി ഞങ്ങൾ ഉദ്ദേശിച്ചത്. പിന്നെ ഈ ടോട്ടൽ സെമിനാറിൽ മലയാളീസ് അല്ലാത്ത ആൾക്കാരും കൂടി ഉണ്ടെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ സ്ഥിതിക്ക് ഈ പ്രസന്റേഷൻ ഇംഗ്ലീഷിലാണ് ചെയ്യാൻ പോണത്. പക്ഷേ അത് വളരെ വിഷ്വൽ, അതായത് കുറെ ഇമേജസ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളാണ്. അപ്പോൾ ലാംഗ്വേജ് വലിയ പ്രശ്നം ഉണ്ടാവില്ല എന്ന് വിചാരിക്കുന്നു. എന്തായാലും ഞാൻ നേരെ ഇനി അധികം സമയം കളയാതെ നേരെ പ്രസന്റേഷനിലേക്ക് കടക്കാം. Okay, so I'll just quickly start by showing where exactly this small country of the Netherlands is. It's in this northwestern corner of Europe, and it's called the Netherlands. And the country is so small that it's almost the same size as that of our Kerala, but only, let's say, with half of its population. Yeah, and just like Kuttanadu, about 26% of the country lies below the sea level, and about 50% of the land is also highly vulnerable to the floods. So they also have developed polder system like Kuttanadu, in which they build their cities and agricultural lands. They also have like very flat landscape like our Kuttanadu, with intricate network of canals and other waterways. And while the Dutch traditionally used windmills to drain water out of these swamps, Kuttanadu had water wheels. And of course, today both these places have replaced this traditional system with these contemporary motor pumps. And similarly, while the Dutch used terms like dikes for these devices that embank and protect the polders, Kuttanadu used the term bunds. And while most of the agriculture that the Dutch produce in these polders are vegetables and flowers, we could not produce rice and fish from these polders. So when we tell what we can learn from the Dutch, we are actually asking this in the context of the disastrous flood that happened in Kerala in 2018. And with, let's say, 4 rivers flowing into the delta of Kuttanadu, Kuttanadu was easily the most affected region. You can see this image on the right side, where you can see how almost the entire wetland of Kuttanadu was underwater. And interestingly, the Dutch also have this huge history of disastrous floods. For instance, the 1953 floods cost about 1,800 lives. And this was actually the result of this storm surge from the sea. And further, in 93 and 95, the rivers in the country flooded due to high precipitation. That led to flood and that led to the evacuation, let's say, more than 2.5 lakhs of people. But the thing what we wanted to really emphasize through our book as well as through this presentation, is that the Dutch kind of recognized that fighting against water by building more sea walls and dams didn't seem sustainable to them anymore, especially in the context of climate change and water level rise. So in 21st century, they came up with concepts like giving more room for the river and how we can actually live with water and adapt to all these high waters and floods that's going to happen. Making new walls and dams and big infrastructural projects doesn't seem to be a sustainable solution, especially in the 21st century. For instance, you can see this project in which how more room was created for the river. And this was created by making an artificial channel so that during the flood times, the city that is on both sides of this river is not affected due to floods, and the water has enough space to flow through. And during dry times, that is when there are no floods, this region can actually be used for recreational and other purposes. And one particular room for the river project, that is of specific relevance to Kuttanadu and which is very similar to the situation in Kuttanadu, is this northward polder. So the situation of this northward polder was that this whole place was big agricultural land, like in Kuttanadu, and the government came up with an idea to actually use this agriculture fields as a place where the excess rainwater or the excess flood water can flow. So this whole region was selected as a place where these excess rainwater flood water can flow, so that the places around remain protected during heavy floods. Of course, this was not highly appreciated by the farmers who have agricultural lands here. So how this was solved was the farmers organized themselves and built actually big compartments, which are like flood-proof regions, which are actually made of turbs. In Malayalam, we can call മൺതിട്ടകൾ, വലിയ മൺതിട്ടകൾ ഉണ്ടാക്കി അതിന്റെ മുകളിൽ കൃഷി ചെയ്ത് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അതിന്റെ മുകളിൽ വീടുകൾ വെച്ചിട്ട് by building houses and agriculture on these turbs or mounds, they ensured that their agricultural land remained dry during floods, and at the same time there was enough space for the flood water to flow through the rest of the space. I can show you a couple of images how this actually worked. You can see this is a situation during a flood, which all these agricultural lands and houses actually remain dry even during high floods, and these evacuation routes that you can see still remain dry, so that people can actually evacuate from these islands during an emergency. So this is the situation of this polder during a flood, and during dry times. Let's say this is how agriculture, on the right side you can see how agriculture is still practiced, and they have other recreational facilities with bridges and viewpoints, such that the other area is mostly used for ecotourism. Yeah. And the Dutch water experts actually visited Kuttanadu last year in 2019, and they also were looking at the water system of Kuttanadu. For instance, this is like a small portion of this whole water system of the Kuttanadu basin. And they were also proposing similar strategies of compartmentalizing certain Padashekarams, such that during heavy floods, some of these places are well protected, and the others actually can be used as a space for these floodwater to pass through, especially because otherwise the water remains stagnant there, and the water coming from the upstream cannot drain into the sea, and the nearby towns and all the houses would actually go below water. So this is still a strategy that needs to be worked out in detail, but the first opinions of the Dutch experts were actually compartmentalization of these Padashekar. They also had such similar recommendations for Kuttanadu, specifically to create more room for these water flow, especially during these flood situations. And some of them are like strengthening and relocating the existing bunds, and also maybe some strategies to actually deepen the river or the canal bed by cleaning of these canals, and maybe also creating alternate high water channels, channels as in where chalugal, so that during these flood water there is the space for water to flow through, and during dry times that can be used for other purposes. And also the other small scale measures like removing obstacles from this canal path or from all these water streams, so that the water flow is not obstructed at all. And it is actually already heartening to see that there exist similar strategies already in Kuttanadu, where how they adapt and live with water, like how we have these houseboat industries, as well as certain private house owners who have adapted their houses by building it on poles, so that it's already well adapted to the high flood situation. Similar strategies also are there in the Netherlands. For instance, these are floating homes, or they call it the amphibious homes, where the only difference from the situation in Kuttanadu is that it just doesn't rest on poles, but it also actually floats along with the high water. Yeah, and another example could be using, let's say, sport fields and other facilities for water storage during heavy rain times. For instance, this is like a college similar to St.Aloysius College, but this is in Rotterdam. And what they have used is their sports field in front, which could be during dry times. It just remains as a typical sports and amphitheater, while during these wet times or during heavy rains, the whole water from this compound actually goes into the sports field, and it is stored there. Otherwise, if we drain all these water out into the city canals or the city ponds, it becomes even more liability for these canals. So the water is actually, all these excess water is actually maintained or stored within the compound of the facility. And another technique, which let's say technique that the Dutch have developed, is this local citizens who act as flood brigades. So rather than making these big infrastructural projects of big dams or seawalls, they're looking at these temporary measures in which local citizens of that city could actually build a temporary flood defense barrier themselves. The thing is that around 200 people volunteered in one of these towns called Kampen in the Netherlands, and they volunteered to train themselves to do this exercise in like 3 hours. So in case if the water rise, if they get this warning, actually the team actually comes together and build this temporary flood defense barriers, and all the materials required for making these barriers can easily be stored under the buildings, under the waterfront buildings. So these are some of the some of the innovations in water management, which we thought of just exposing to the audience in Kuttanadu. And another topic of equal interest in Kuttanadu from the Dutch perspective are the agriculture innovations. And like I mentioned, even though they are like almost the same size of Kerala and a big portion of land below sea level, the country is self-sufficient. It's not only self-sufficient in producing their own food, but they're also second largest exporter of food in the world, following the United States of America. So some of the techniques that would be of interest for the particular case of Kuttanadu could be their extensive research on saline farming. For instance, this is an institute called the Saline Doctors, which is based in the Netherlands, and they provide salinity assessments for different varieties of crops of the same plant, so that we can identify the ones that are most salt tolerant. So their approach is that rather than making more infrastructure or more policies to ensure that there is no salinity in the soil or there is no saline water, instead of doing that, why don't we actually look at crops that are already, let's say, tolerant to salt? So they have these research field. They have these open farms where the test for salt tolerance of different species of the same plant can be conducted. And recently, they identified the salt tolerant species of potatoes that could grow in Pakistan. And this helped the farmers who have been struggling with this salinity issue on their farms. And this helped the farmers to now increase the yield by almost 3 times. And similarly, they're also helping farmers in Bangladesh to identify the salt tolerant species. So identifying such salt tolerant species could be very specific, useful for the specific case of Kuttanadu, as paddy cultivation is affected by the salinity of the Vembanad Kayal in a regular basis. And another system that could be of relevance, not just to Kuttanadu, but Kerala in general, is this hydroponic system. And it actually lets you grow food almost anywhere. For instance, this is like the Dutch bucket system, that's what they call, in which there is no soil that required, and it reduces the water consumption by almost 90% in comparison to traditional farms. So how it works is that the water and the nutrients required for the plants is actually fed, it's fed into these pots, and the same water is again recycled. So soil is not necessary. So instead of that, we could use any medium like a coir or glass wool, or let's say rock pieces like in this example that is shown here. And the thing is that when there is no soil, that also means that we hardly need any pesticides. That's because most of the pests that actually happens on these crops are from the soil. And they also do this extensive exchange of this knowledge. And you can see how these bananas and tomatoes are grown using the same technology in a very low-tech intervention, like within these polycarbonate sheets in places like Africa, and this actually helps you produce food almost anywhere, like with very less water, irrespective of the type of soil conditions that you have. So the thing is that since the cold and let's say windy Dutch climate does not allow them to grow so many crops like how we grow it in Kerala or in Kuttanadu in the open. So they make all their most of their food actually in these climate-controlled indoor greenhouses like these. So a typical Dutch polder today actually looks like this sea of greenhouse structures that you can see, which is like distributed in both small and large parcels of land across their landscape. So below sea level, poor quality of soil, or limited land, they didn't restrict them to actually innovate and still produce their own food, and that too at a very large scale. And this is not just on these landscape, even on top of buildings. For instance, this is like an office building in The Hague, and on top of which there are greenhouses attached, and they're not just any random greenhouse, but it is also combined with actually fish farming in the floor below. So how it works is that the waste water from the fish tank actually feeds the vegetable, and the waste from the farm actually goes in as food for the fishes again. So, so to sum up, so our intention of this presentation was to actually introduce these practices and activities in the Netherlands, which could be of inspiration to Kuttanadu and of course to Kerala as a whole, which is, and especially Kuttanadu, which is specifically below the sea level, with agriculture as a major land use in the region. So this is a rough background of the things that we collected for this presentation. And now we would like to end it with another study on Kuttanadu, which was done by the Dutch in 1989, in which they proposed some solutions for solving the agriculture and water problems in the Kuttanadu. There is this full video of this available online, and we are only showing a really small part of it for your inspiration. And just before starting this seminar, when we checked, apparently it was difficult for us to play this from the presentation. So I'm going to just play it from the Chrome tab.
The Kuttanadu, the delta area of 4 rivers. Areas used mainly for agriculture and which give a reasonable yield are marked in green. Much of the Kuttanadu is below sea level, and during the rainy season, the canal system cannot handle the vast quantity of excess water entering the Kuttanadu, with the result that much of the area is entirely or partially flooded each year. In 1955, the Thottapalli system was constructed. This comprised building a spillway with sluices to release the water and widening the canals, and as a result, a smaller proportion of the land was flooded. In the study, the Pamba scheme is proposed, in which the Thottapalli spillway and the canal system would be enlarged. Regulators would be constructed in 2 tributaries of the river to control the flow of water in the canal system and at the spillway. The dikes would also have to be raised and strengthened. The scheme aims to prevent regular flooding in this part of the Kuttanadu. The Minachil and Vaikom study has been designed to prevent flooding in the middle section of the Kuttanadu. According to the study, the excess water can be diverted to the lake by regulators in the rivers and by widening existing canals and constructing a new canal. The dikes would also have to be raised and strengthened. As a result of these measures, farmland in this part of the Kuttanadu would no longer be flooded. Another major problem in the Kuttanadu occurs during the dry season when fresh water is needed for irrigation. When connected to the sea, as is the case in the natural situation, the lake contains salt water, and thus the surrounding area cannot be irrigated with the water from the lake. The shortage of fresh water in this season means that agricultural production is low at that time. This is shown by the white dots. In 1976, the St.Aloysius regulator was constructed to solve the problem. By closing the sluice at the beginning of the dry season, salt water is prevented from flowing into the lake. Season, there is a continuous shortage of water for irrigation. This measure has only partly overcome the problem. If in the future no satisfactory measures are taken, then agricultural production will decline further because more water is being used upstream for irrigation and domestic purposes. At present, the fresh water used by the Idukki hydroelectric project flows along the north side of the Kuttanadu from the lagoon into the sea. This fresh water could be used to overcome the irrigation problem. Excess water could be directed into the lake by constructing 2 small dams and an extra barrier, thus making available enough fresh water for irrigation. This would contribute to higher agricultural production throughout the whole area. Although the measures outlined will ensure that agriculture can function optimally, the fishermen will not benefit from the project. A solution, which also takes account of the interests of the fishermen, would be to keep the sluices in the salinity barrier open permanently and to construct a dike parallel to the eastern shore of the lake. The water to the east of the dike would be fresh for irrigation because of the inflow from the Muvatupura diversion. Water to the west of the dike would become brackish again. The solutions proposed in the Kuttanadu water balance study will not solve all of the problems of the Kuttanadu immediately. It will take some time before this picture becomes a scene from the past. The governments of Kerala State and of India will have to study these proposals. After the decisions are made, it will take considerable effort and financial backing on the part of donors before these works can be constructed. The project will need an implementing organization and involvement of the local people in order to provide a long-term solution to these water management problems. Then, agricultural production could be increased by 80% as a consequence of the proposed measures. The fish catch can be increased by 50% by opening the Thanemukam barrier and by constructing a freshwater dike in the lake, together with measures to prevent overfishing. As in the rest of the world, extensive measures are needed to overcome environmental problems. The proposed measures will only offer solutions on a limited scale.
Rakesh sir. Hello.
Hello. Yeah, I was just informed. Yeah, I was just informed that half of the presentation was not seen.
Yeah, presentation was seen.
No problem. Yeah, no problem.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Maybe we now me and the ambassador is available, and maybe we could have some way to organize some interaction session.
Please, those who want to participate in the discussion, please unmute your audio and ask questions.
Or maybe you can post your questions on the chat box.
I've already posted one question.
Sir, you may please once again raise that question.
Sir, there is one question from Mr. Dr. Praveen Sagalia. His question is whether Netherlands have plans to help Kerala government in successfully developing a flood warning system, especially for the district of Alappuzha. Do you encourage project proposals from Keralites. So, could you able to hear?
Yes, I could hear. Let me just turn on the video also. I could hear that. There is extensive discussions going on between the Kerala government and Dutch experts who have been deputed to study the situation, to make recommendations, and also to support the Kerala government in implementing them. If my memory is correct, and Rakesh can add to it, flood warning systems, not just in Kuttanadu or Alappuzha, but across the state, are part of those recommendations. But ultimately, the Dutch government is providing technical cooperation, the service of experts to the state government to implement various programs. Extensive recommendations have been made to the state government, and the state government has to take it up one by one, depending upon availability of resources. In fact, what is good is that the state government has also taken a very important loan from the World Bank and has plans to use some amount of those resources to implement some of the recommendations which have been made by the Dutch government. And this includes one of the, in Rakesh's presentation, there was reference to a room for the river project. So World Bank money and the guidance of Dutch experts is going to be used to implement a room for the river project. Specifically on the flood warning system, I'm not sure what stage of consideration or implementation it is. The state government, especially the Water Resources Department, will be aware of that. And as far as new proposals are concerned, the proposals will really have to go to the state government. You will have to make suggestions, you have to make recommendations, you have to make proposals, or you have to make requests for the state government to consider your ideas and see how it is relevant, and then see how it can be implemented. So implementation, once again, I repeat, is primarily the responsibility of the state government. Rakesh, you want to add?
Sir, one more question can I put? We are having 14 districts in Kerala. Sir, if we are doing it for one single district, what will be the estimate for developing a flood warning unit, especially for the district of Alappuzha?
Once again, I think it would be useful if you could identify yourself also, so we know the who's asking the question. But at any rate, you know, this is a flood warning system will have to be first devised or designed, and it could vary from place to place. It could vary upon local conditions, and then you would need somebody to see what resources already exist and what more needs to be added, and only then you come into costs. So this is a discussion you must have with the Water Resources Department, or if you have officials of the Water Resources Department in Alappuzha district, you must have a discussion with them.
Sir, you have portrayed.
Okay, thank you.
Would you prefer that we answer these questions in Malayalam or in English?
Agriculture development. Sir, my question is this.
Yes.
There is potential prospects of economic development in Netherlands with a special focus on agriculture. There, human development index, physical quality of life index, gender empowerment index, human kindness index, etc. are high. But why these indices are low in Kerala? Is it due to the lack of agricultural potential prospects? Could you please explain, sir? I am Dr. Jochan.
Okay, Dr. Joseph, Kerala is a model to the world in terms of human development indices. The achievement that we have made in terms of education and health over the years, you must have heard about what has been called the Kerala model. That has been extremely impressive. But what Kerala needs today is no longer to rely on the achievements of the past, but to make new achievements and to continue to progress in a steady manner in the field of agriculture as well as in the field of industry. But when I say industry, in sustainable industry which does not damage the environment and which conforms to Kerala's unique characteristics. So I think people in Kerala have been discussing for quite some time, and we need to both carry forward these discussions and to implement whatever consensus we can develop out of it as to how we can arrive at a new Kerala model, a Kerala model 2.0, and what should be the contents of that. The Netherlands has reached where it is after centuries of work, and it is ultimately a small country. As Rakesh mentioned, their land area is the same as that of Kerala, but their population is only half. We have double the population. And we have a certain set of problems which they do not have. If we take for floods, for example, we have mountains. And in the mountains, because of deforestation, there are landslides. And it is actually landslides which cause the maximum death and destruction during a flood. So there is, I think it is important that we don't see anybody else as perfect. They all have their good points and they have bad points. We need to learn from their good points. And more than anything else, we need to work back at home to discuss amongst ourselves and to arrive at a consensus. The people of Kerala, irrespective of political affiliation, irrespective of religion, irrespective of caste, gender, community, must unite and say the development of our state is the most important thing, and what can we do to develop our state. Even now, as Kerala confronts the COVID crisis, people all over the world are praised for how Kerala has managed the situation. But at the same time, with more and more overseas Malayalis returning to Kerala, whether it be from other parts of India or other parts of the world, the numbers are once again growing up. There is fears across the world that there could be a second wave, a second spike. We need to prevent it. And even as we prevent it, we need to make sure our economy is running and we continue to have agricultural development as well as other aspects of growth. So these are big challenges which Kerala needs to address on its own, taking benefit of the experience of people from across the world.
Sir, your analysis, your analysis is excellent. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, good afternoon. Can I come in? I question post in the chat. And I'm Amsterdam.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm based at Royal Tropical Institute, Koninglag Institute Food Treatment. Public health background.
Very good.
So, my focus is on health systems management. So, Kuttanadu floods in the background, how to strengthen the health system for various climate-related risks. And Kuttanadu being a global GIHS site or status or site, it's like a natural laboratory where you can also study the effects and also study the the impact of your mitigation interventions. I project co-design and I also have, for example, you may have Amsterdam Health and Technology Institute, European Union University of Amsterdam. So the director of urban health is also collaborating with us in this. So I just want to get across to you and just brainstorm with this at some point as convenient. I can come to Hague, I can go to Rotterdam.
With great pleasure, Gopu. I'm very glad to meet you through this roundabout way through a webinar being organized by St.Aloysius College. But great pleasure. Healthcare is an absolute priority for collaboration. And after the COVID crisis, the importance of public health is recognized by everyone even more. Please come and meet me. Just send an email to my office. We'll fix up a time and I will introduce you to my colleagues who handle healthcare. We are looking at how we can start new ways of collaborating and learning from each other with the Dutch. And I would be most interested in learning from you what your work is and who all you're working with. And also, I'd be very happy to forward any recommendations that you have with regard to Kerala or Kuttanadu to the Kerala government for their consideration. Sorry,
കാരണം ഏറ്റവും എളുപ്പത്തിൽ കോൺടാക്ട് ചെയ്യാനുള്ള ഒരു ഇമെയിൽ തരാൻ പറ്റുമോ?
yeah, well, I think the organizer, Professor Jochan Joseph, has my email, and you can please forward it to Mr. Pillai.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
And otherwise, amb.thehague@mea.gov.in.
Okay, sir.
I'll put it into the chat. Okay.
Sir, Jochan answer, our focus is genderലാണ്. We focus on gender vulnerable populations. So primarily sexual and reproductive health and rights ആണ് KITന്റെ ഒരു major focal area.
Okay, come and discuss with us and we'll look at it in detail.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Sir, it is 4:30 now. I think, is it time for you or?
Well,
4:30 here in Indian Standard Time. Sorry.
I don't mind another 5 or 10 minutes, so we can take maybe 2 more questions.
Okay. Yeah. Sir, there was a study from the Organization of Climate Central saying that almost the whole of the Kuttanadu will be underwater in maybe next 30 or 30 years. I think the study may be predicting the same thing for the Netherlands. Whether Netherlands is preparing for any such disaster, any such eventuality which is going to happen, because in Kerala, I think, I don't know whether the world also is taking this report into a serious consideration, but in Kerala, I don't think that we are not discussing much about this report.
Okay, thank you. So I would straight away say that while this may be one amongst many reports, every such report should be taken seriously. I hope you may and St.Aloysius College can take the leadership in having more discussion and debate within Kerala on such reports. In fact, in the book that Rakesh and I wrote also, we have repeatedly flagged the importance of public participation in decision making regarding all aspects of development, regarding issues of water or agriculture. So I think we must take this report seriously, and you must do everything possible to bring it to the attention of the major policymakers so that they can factor it into their decisions. As far as Netherlands is concerned, they see climate change as one of the biggest challenges that the world is confronting, not just they, but the world. And for them, they see it as an existential challenge. So how to deal with this existential challenge? One, they are extremely active internationally in trying to bring all countries together to fight the challenge of climate change and to do what is necessary to both adapt as well as mitigate against climate change. And within the country, they are looking at every possible means, as Rakesh mentioned and in our presentation. While originally they were focused on engineering solutions to dealing with the challenges of floods, they are moving on to how to live with nature and how can you use nature itself as a means for preventing floods. So similarly, as far as climate change is concerned, they recognize the threat to their country and they are trying to do everything possible from happening. They are studying how this can be done. They are trying to take necessary measures for the same, and they are also educating and making their public aware so that they have public support for the same.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else?
There is one question on the chat box, and the question is from Mr. Anthony Kuriakos. And what his question is, shall we need to rework on Vembanad regarding the carrying capacity?
I think there is no doubt that work needs to be done on all the major waterway systems in India. In Kerala, because systematic efforts have not happened in the past, and now we need to take the climate change even more seriously. There is extreme climatic events like the floods which happened in Kerala in 2018. and which was followed in 2019 by a smaller floods. These are happening across the world, and people believe this is the result of climate change. So these extreme climatic events, whether it is an acute shortage of water or an excess of rain within a very short period of time, is likely or is most definitely going to happen in the future. So we must be prepared for the same, and we must study the entire water system in Kerala. And wherever we need to increase the drainage, wherever we need to clean up canals, wherever we need to remove blockages and obstacles, wherever there has been encroachment into public waterways, all these need to be eliminated. Wherever we can create new waterways to ensure the smooth flow of floodwater if and when a flood occurs, we must do it. And whatever measures we can take to address coastal erosion, we must do it. So the entire water system of Kerala needs to be studied in an integrated manner, including the Vemanad Kayal, and all necessary steps should be initiated for that. These are all steps which cannot be completed overnight, but at least if we study them, if we understand them, and if we start initiating them progressively, we can create a situation where people can remain safe during floods, and we can minimize damage to our agriculture or to property and all other activities which are very important for the economy.
Sir, there is one more comment from Mr. George Thomas. Sir, late for you?
Yeah, go ahead. This can be the last one.
Okay, sure, sir. And his comment is that the main problem of occurring floods in Kuttanadu is due to construction of roads without proper planning, restricting the flow of water. And the question is how the roads construction was done in Netherlands so that such flood problem is not occurring or is not occurring in occurring there.
Right. It's a very good question. And I think this is where a lot of progress needs to be made in India as a whole, also in Kerala, which is that sometimes the problem is not that we don't know what needs to be done or how it needs to be done, but we are unable to do it. And we are unable to do it because there is no coordination between the departments. There is no coordination between different agencies engaged in different tasks. Sometimes roads are the responsibility of the National Highway Authority, which is a central government institution, or the state PWD department. They don't speak to the irrigation department. They don't speak to the water resources department. Even in the field of water, the power sector runs dams, the irrigation department has dams, the water resources has dams. So sometimes in one river, there are 2 or 3 dams managed by different departments, and there is no coordination between them. One will open the gates when another closes the gates. So the coordination between different agencies in the interest of integrated development is truly a challenge for all of India, including Kerala. One of the important reforms that are sought to be undertaken by the state government, including by creating of an integrated water management authority, is to bring all these agencies together. Right now, whether it is confronting the COVID crisis or earlier during the floods, the state government is also learning how to improve coordination between various agencies better and better. India is learning. If you look at the National Disaster Management Authority, which never used to exist till about 5 or 10 years back, as each disaster happens, as they work on each disaster, they are learning, they are improving their functioning, they are becoming more efficient, they are coordinating better with the state governments. So we must have better coordination between various parts of the government and various governments, central as well as state, and between the people, the panchayats, the municipalities, and the government. And this is an extremely important priority which we must achieve. This will not happen overnight. Once again, it can only progressively happen. But the cost of not coordinating is very high, as was pointed out, because roads are built without reference to waterways. and the need for channels for floodwaters to go out, the floodwaters get blocked and there is flood damage. So this is an extremely important priority, which I would urge all of you to highlight to all people that you can reach out to, and to also contribute to bringing different agencies to come together and work together. The Netherlands over years has worked in bringing different agencies together, as was mentioned earlier, because they see climate change as an existential threat, because they see water as an absolute priority, everything to do with water as an absolute priority. They have over years gained experience in bringing all agencies together and giving maximum priority to water, so that the requirements of water-related issues are taken into consideration when things like roads are built. So they have long experience in doing this, but by learning from them, we can try and do this much faster and bring benefit to our people. Rakesh, you want to add something on this?
No, I think the answer was clear, and it's this coordination between the sectors which is actually the biggest highlight of the Netherlands. It's always what not just India or other countries, but even European countries are really looking towards Dutch on how well they have integrated different sectors and how they have integrated especially the spatial planning, the development of cities and water management together. And I think this is a very good lesson actually the world all actually learned from the Dutch. Yeah.
Hi everyone. I think now we are almost 15 minutes past our scheduled time of 4:30 Indian Standard Time. So I think maybe it's the time to put our gratitude into words. So His Excellency Mr. Venu Rajamony sir, Mr. Rakesh sir, today we have got an excellent opportunity to hear from two eminent speakers. And St. Aloysius College is very proud to have organized such a webinar which has relevance to the people of Kuttanadu, particularly where the college is situated. It was a rare opportunity to know the farming and water management practices of Netherlands. I would like to express the sincere gratitude of St. Aloysius College to His Excellency Mr. Venu Rajamony sir for agreeing to host this webinar. His Excellency has talked about the parallels between Kuttanadu and Netherlands, and also about the need for fostering the linkages between both Kerala and Netherlands. It is because of his passion and interest in the development of our society he accepted our invitation. Our sincere gratitude to His Excellency Mr. Rajamony sir. Thank you. It was Mr. Rakesh NM who worked out the finer details of the program. He constantly communicated with us and helped us to organize the webinar. He was very much passionate about the development of our society and his wonderful ideas on land and water management. Today, we got an opportunity to have a glimpse on that. On behalf of St. Aloysius College, I express my sincere gratitude to Mr. Rakesh NM. Very good response to this webinar. We were attending this webinar on Google Meet platform, as well as on there were people who were watching our meeting on YouTube Live. We have both academic and non-academic community. So in addition to the academic community, we had the student community, the students of our college and nearby colleges. And also we had people in and around the Kuttanadu and especially Edathua attending this seminar. On behalf of St. Aloysius College, I extend a hearty gratitude to all those who have attended this webinar from different parts of the world. ഇനി അവസാനമായിട്ട് നമ്മളുടെ ഈ വെബിനാറിൽ അറ്റൻഡ് ചെയ്ത എല്ലാവർക്കും, പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് കുട്ടനാട് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് മനസ്സിലൊരു വികാരമായിട്ടും കൊണ്ടു നടക്കുകയും അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ സെന്റ് അലോഷ്യസ് കോളേജിനെ ഒത്തിരിയേറെ സ്നേഹിക്കുകയും ചെയ്യുന്ന കുട്ടനാട്ടിലെ എല്ലാ നാട്ടുകാർക്കും സെന്റ് അലോഷ്യസ് കോളേജിന്റെ പേരിലുള്ള എല്ലാ ആത്മാർത്ഥമായ നന്ദിയും അറിയിക്കുന്നു. നിങ്ങളുടെ പാർട്ടിസിപ്പേഷൻ ഈ വെബിനാറിനെ വിജയകരമാക്കി. നിങ്ങളോട് ഞങ്ങൾക്കുള്ള നന്ദി വീണ്ടും അറിയിക്കുന്നു. താങ്ക് യു. താങ്ക്സ് എ ലോട്ട്.
Thank you very much, everyone. We really enjoyed participating in this webinar. ഭാവിയിൽ എന്തെങ്കിലും സെന്റ് അലോഷ്യസ് കോളേജ് സന്ദർശിക്കാനുള്ള അവസരം കൂടി ഉണ്ടാവും എന്ന് പ്രാർത്ഥിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും എൻ്റെ നമസ്കാരം.
യു ആർ വെൽക്കം, സാർ.